Here's why I chose a 30mm aluminium floor and how I did it. I promised this build was going to be different. I think I'm the first one to ever use this floor in a Volkswagen Transporter. Now, to show you how we got to this stage, I'm going to have to take you back a bit. As with any job like this, the preparation is key. So I'm going to show you where I'm up to. The whole van has been pretty much emptied. The van was previously 100% Dodo sticky tar insulated. I had to remove all of that off of the highs. So it's corrugated like that. So all of the highs are free of any insulation. These will be rubbed up and primed with Sika primer. I've removed the step. I've removed any wall panels that will encroach on the floor. I've removed my seat backs. Anything that is going to encroach on the floor needs to be out of the way. And I'm now using this piece of ply, which is the perfect template to start looking at where the floor will and will not be. And if you're wondering where I got such a great template from, the one-piece floor from Combe Valley Campers. It's 2.9 meters from end to end. Standard sheet of ply, as we all know, is 2,440, about 8 foot. So this must come off of a mega sheet. So if you were just using a vinyl floor or something like that going over the top, this is the perfect floor where you won't have any vulnerable joints. Now, if you look closer, you'll probably see there's a few lines in mine, because the day I went and picked this up from Combe Valley Campers, thank you, Lee, once again, my van was filled to the brim. I had to cut it into pieces, but I'm simply using it as a template. So it is a bit sacrificial and it is a massive shame, because what a product. I'm using this as the perfect template because it's going to save me so much time. And my God, does this fit well. So I have these plastic arches which are creating a bit of tension. Not designed for these. It's no sweat. All I'll do is kind of take off what I need so it fits perfectly, because here, for example, I've got extra material where a standard van would not have it, if that makes sense. So what I'll do is go around and kind of mark on the board -5, -2, because it doesn't need to be so tight. This floor here, fair play, Combe Valley Campers, it is millimeter perfect. There would not be any edges around your van that the wall panels and the vinyl can't take care of, but that's not what the Bruns floor is. So this is a cross section of the Bruns. So once again, the ply is just my perfect template that I am going to mark up and relay onto my full aluminium floor. The most important thing was to make sure that I lay this floor out with the tracks, which will take my seat system. Yet to explain that to you guys, but my seat system is going to sit in these cargo tracks, so I need to make sure that they are in the correct position. And that's why setting it off to one side has worked for me, because I want to keep my seat, imagine the van, I want to keep my seat as close to that B pillar as possible. Many minutes later, and it looks a little like this. So you see the outside line is the Combe Valley ply line, and the inside line is my -5. And basically, using this as an example, all I did the whole way round was took the template, pulled it in, drew it, and then I was keeping the same contours like that, you see. So that is going to be my cut line. A lot of work at this stage, but comparing it with the competitors in the market, say the other options such as the Caravelle, using the Caravelle tracks with, say, the rib bed, I'm saying that this is a lot less labor intensive. I've watched a few videos on the Caravelle tracks, and that is not an easy job. Once this is down and stuck in, basically drill 2 holes, 1 in each track, and it's done. It's done. You don't need to see every single bit of the cut. I feel like I'm shouting. We've cleaned the edges, and now we've done a dry fit. And to be honest, for the initial fit, it isn't too bad. It isn't too bad at all. We've got a tiny bit of trimming to do. So now, get this back in the workshop, prime it, put it back in, sticky sticky. I rub down with some alcohol, and then the Sika primer.
these end caps to fit. That obviously butts up to there. Then you have a filler where you don't need rail, you have a filler, so it just finishes it off nicely. And what I do is I just back it off and then just mark the shape there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to Sikaflex these in, and then your vinyl floor goes over the top of that.
So the plastic, you just said that that's basically a filler, because even though the channel runs front to back, sometimes you don't use all of it, because you use some at the front and some in the back in some of your vans, don't you?
Yeah, I have 6 lengths of rail in my vans for seats, but in the garage area I like to break that down into separate pieces, so where the bulkhead comes down and you have the timber door, I don't want any tracks running under that, so I have a nice space so the vinyl floor covers that and it's flat. Also where the furniture goes, you don't want the rails under there either.
So if you put rails basically where you're having furniture, you're then dealing with the fact that you're trying to put a flat surface on something that is raised above the floor level. So choosing exactly where you want the rails at this stage is actually quite vital. I know that the predominant reason I'm having these rails is to slide my bed, spoiler alert, from back to front. These are for my bed. And yes, at the end here, I can play with mountain bike mounts, anything that fits to these cargo tracks, like the little clips that I sell with my tables, that kind of thing. So mine do want to be front to back. Just sorting out the little end caps now to make it look pretty. Yeah, I mean, buzzing. I'm absolutely buzzing with this. I can't tell you how good it feels to look over and see that solid floor. I've been driving around with just like the sound deadening and the exposed cargo floor, and it's been driving me a little bit crazy. I've just noticed, maybe you can see, maybe you can't, but as I've bolted this track down now, there's just the tiniest little gap, enough that some of the vinyl will go under there and the rest would just be clamped down. It's almost like it's allowed for a floor to go on top of it, so it won't totally wreck the floor and use the floor like structurally, like the finished floor. But yeah, look at that. It's the real deal. Even though we stick this thing down with Sikaflex, believe it or not, the end product is in fact M1 tested. Stick the floor down, a bolt at the rear of each track, and you are good to go. Choose the correct bed and the whole thing is M1 legal. Why did I choose the floor from AMF BRUNS? I was massively influenced by Andy over at Ape Adventure Vans, because he puts these in all of his sprinters and I've loved them from day one. There are other products available. Moby Frame themselves, and they're the people, I'm not going to show you yet, but they make the seat bed that I've chosen to go for. They make their own floor. It is cut to size and it's pre-vinyled. It is a composite. That sounds like it's plastic, and it sounds that it's going to be a lot lighter than an aluminium floor. Have you ever picked up a piece of composite decking? I've not seen the floors, by the way, from Moby Frame, and I don't know what they weigh. But just because it's plastic doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be lighter. To get a plastic product like that to be as structurally sound as an alternative like an AMF BRUNS floor, I'd imagine it would have to be quite dense. That's not the reason I didn't go for the floor. The reason I didn't go for the floor is because it comes pre-finished. It comes with a floor covering already installed on it, and that, in fact, although convenient, is the reason I did not choose the Moby Frame composite floor. I haven't seen them in the flesh, and floor coverings can be a bit hit and miss. Now, because I haven't seen them, I couldn't choose one, and also the one I liked the most had a wood grain, but my units have got a wood grain and I didn't want it to clash. So basically, by choosing the AMF BRUNS floor, I could choose any floor covering in the world. And this is what I've chosen. It is an Outro floor covering. I previously used this in the silver van, the Mercedes Sprinter, and I loved it. It hasn't got that hospital feel to it. It hasn't got that rough surface. It looks absolutely cracking, and I'm going for something similar on the walls. The tracks are in. We are basically at finishing point. This video isn't about the vinyl floor. It's not about how to fit a vinyl floor. I've got previous videos. Lots of people have got previous videos on how to fit Outro and vinyl, things like that in a camper van. This is about the BRUNS floor itself. All I will say about how we've done it is we've used double-sided tape. So instead of using a contact adhesive that you have to wait hours for and you make a right mess, we've got double-sided tape. There was actually strips all up and down the van, all around the edges, and it allows you to cut it to size, lay the floor in, make sure it's right, lift it up, peel it off, stick it back down. Simple as that. These bars as well, as I previously mentioned, they are clamping it down nicely. I'm now at a stage where I'm covering the finished edges. On the front edge, on this very, very, very front edge, I'm literally going to use some L trim. That is raw aluminium to match the rest. Now I would usually powder coat anything that was aluminium because I love black. But because the bed is going to slide, I was a little bit concerned that in time that may scuff. So I would prefer to see that naked, and then complement it with other trims that were naked also, rather than see something black and scuffed. I have opted for the Caravelle side step, and there's a good reason for that. The Caravelle itself, because it has a floor system, Caravelle floor is also 30mm, 40mm thicker than the standard cargo floor. So this deep step is exactly the correct depth that we need for that to look a factory finish. Now, I did in fact also purchase a Caravelle rear step because that will allow for the thickness of the AMF BRUNS floor. Problem being is the Caravelle step finishes about here. Then I wasn't sure what to do with the rest of it and make that look good. It would look a bit bitty. So I've opted for the Transporter HQ rear step, but even that isn't wide enough. Now, not because the product isn't correct, it's because I am 30mm higher and this step is designed to sit with a standard floor. So the step is absolutely perfect. And if you had a ply floor with vinyl, it would basically on both sides sit absolutely beautiful like that. But mine, because I'm 30mm higher, I'm pretty much going to have to split the difference, which isn't much, but then come up with a nice solution to just finish that exposed edge there. There's going to be some questions. I appreciate that, and I bet the top one is how much does it weigh? And you would be surprised because it's basically wafer of aluminium. My bet is that that weighs about 55 to 60 kilos, which sounds like a great deal, but in the scheme of things, it isn't, because that sheet of ply, that mega sheet that goes in there, I bet that that's about 25 kilos. And then you would need to put ply battens in between the undulations of the floor, and that weighs something. And then if you're going to compare this to a similar kind of setup, you've then got the Caravelle tracks or whatever tracks you decide to use, and they weigh something. This is about 55 to 60 kilos, but that's all in. That is all in, ready to go. This truly is revolutionary, and I haven't seen it in a Volkswagen Transporter to date. Massive thank you to Andy at Ape Adventure Vans, because yes, he helped me install this, but on top of that, and I'm not sure he knows this, his motivation to innovate is contagious. You spend enough time with someone like that and it will make you want a piece of that. And that's how and why I've decided to try and make something a little bit different. I want this to be a unique Volkswagen Transporter. It won't be everyone's cup of tea. People will say that this is above and beyond and unnecessary. I appreciate that. But why do they all have to be the same? Stay tuned, because the next episode, I'm going to show you the best seat bed in the world. I'm doing something with the pillars, which I can't find online. I've seen it nowhere and I've fallen down a right rabbit hole. There is so much to come. Stay tuned, hit the subscribe, hit the like and hit the bell, and I'll see you next Tuesday.